So before we start talking about, the ableism, the transphobia experience in your life and your life as a disabled person, as a trans person, I wanted to talk a bit just about who you are as a person. I feel like when this sort of thing happens, there's too much focus put on someone as like this one singular identity. And I wanted to give you a chance to just, talk about yourself. So is there anything you would like to tell the wonderful people watching about yourself, just as a person? You know, like if you wanted to talk about your writing, for example, or just maybe a bit about where you live, or
what makes Robin Robin is what he's asking.
What makes Florb Florb?
why? Well, maybe you can tell them about your name or something. You don't have to, of course, but I'm just like, we can move on to the next thing if you want to, but yeah.
No. I mean, I'd be happy to speak a little bit about myself. Well, for context, I live in the United States, specifically Ohio, where you can get the 4 seasons in a single day if you're lucky. And where care for disabilities is absolutely abysmal. My hobbies, as Levi mentioned, I am a writer. I currently don't have anything published. I write mostly for myself and what interests me. For like my dreams and goals, mostly my dream is to just live my best life, be happy, be as healthy as I can be. And a goal I have is to maybe someday get out of the current situation I am in with state care and be on my own, as independent as I can be.
Did you want to tell them a bit about the stories you're working on, or would you rather move on to something else in the interview?
Well, the main story I'm working on right now is a retelling of the King Arthur mythos, where King Arthur is a trans man, and honestly, where a lot of the round table has LGBTQ identities.
We talked quite a bit about how to write that. I know you're asking yourself a lot about, should the story take place before Arthur's transition or after, and how should it be talked about, the language and stuff. Like, there's just so many possibilities. If I was smart, I would have brought up like the conversation we had on Discord to refresh my memory about it.
My favorite himbo.
Yeah. How many writers? It's not my fault that you have to be a writer if you're queer. That's just a rule.
It's just both guests you've brought on so far have been writers.
Who isn't a writer? Who do we know who is queer and not a writer?
I'm not technically a writer.
I don't. I'm sorry. Your job is writing.
No, my job is getting in front of a camera.
To read out the things that you wrote.
Only because no one else is going to do it.
If
I could orate to someone and have them write it down, I would. Believe me, I would. I very much would.
That's still writing. That's still writing.
Technically not.
Really gonna do this?
I think Ethel's job more covers like news and
That's still
uh,
writing. Also, I've read some of Ethel's fiction stuff, and it's really good.
Eh.
Yes, it is.
Uh,
I'm so picky though. I have to like my friends can back me up on this, especially Nick. I'm so picky about writing. If I say that your fiction writing is good, then like that's not something to take lightly. And it
Anyway,
says, oh, we are all writers. We are all writers.
I've literally had Levi rewrite things for me.
All right, yeah. Before this devolves into a book club, I guess I should ask if you wanted to tell the audience just a bit of background on your disabilities. You don't have to. I know that's very personal, but anything you want to tell them, you can.
All right. Well, to start, I was born 15 weeks premature. And as either a result of that or the car crash my mother got in on the way to the hospital, I had a massive brain hemorrhage. And the way my mom described my MRI as a baby was basically my brain looked like Swiss cheese.
Hmm.
There were a lot of pockets of blood and just it looked like holes on the MRI. The most affected area was my motor cortex and my nervous system. Um, my official diagnosis, which I got technically at birth, but was officially diagnosed after I turned a year old, is spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. And I also have undiagnosed uh, neurodivergence of some kind, which I've discovered largely in health thanks to Levi.
I basically have been discovering slowly that all of my friends have turned out to be autistic, and it's like Robin doesn't hate being around me, so like there's a chance.
if I was gonna be smart here, I'd make a bird of the feather joke.
Yeah, basically.
But I have also been officially diagnosed with PTSD, general and social anxiety, and clinical depression. I'm also borderline anorexic. I don't have an official diagnosis, but a lot of doctors have commented on the fact that I tend to fluctuate between 90 and 100 pounds, and that I don't eat very well.
Yeah, and of course, a major thing that makes a lot of things difficult for you, I'm guessing, is that you need to use a wheelchair as well.
Yes, I'm entirely wheelchair bound. I used to be able to crawl, but starting around the age of 7, not helped with a slew of surgeries that I would have in my adolescence. My motor function and my strength started to deteriorate. I've had 16 surgeries, 10 of which were in a single year to deal with kidney stones. I'm also a survivor of CSA and much abuse by my family, hence where the PTSD comes in.
Don't by the way,
Sorry,
don't
go
feel
on.
like you have to share like anything like.
Oh no, I was gonna
like,
say, and that's about it.
Before we go on to the intersection between the ableism you experience because of all of this and the transphobia you experience, were there any challenges that like really stick out to you? You know, whether it's really big things that have a massive impact on your life are just like everyday annoyances that you wanted to talk about. I know you mentioned something about, I did tell you that you could talk about just ableism in general in this interview, and you did seem to be thinking about that.
Mm. Oh, and before we go further, I am non-binary. I kind of prefer to be down the middle, but I also sometimes lean towards mask. And as for ableism, as I briefly mentioned, I live in what we call a assisted living facility, where I live in an apartment with a roommate. We have 24/7 staffing to take care of our basic daily needs, and I have had so many issues since coming to this, facility when I was 17 going on 18. One of the most common issues I face is that there are staff that just literally view this as a job where they can sit on their ass and not do much, or where they generally just ignore us asking for help and or avoid checking on us at all. Like, a problem with me, because I am a writer and I get very absorbed into my work, so much so that like hours can pass and it'll feel like nothing to me. I have expressed several times that I need reminders to like have my needs met or eat, you know.
Yeah. And they just don't care. They don't do that, do they?
They literally don't. Or
Oh, is it okay if I tell them about the intercontinental alarm?
oh yeah. Yeah.
One of the things we had to do, because the staff are so terrible at their jobs, is Robin has been late for appointments before, and I'm like, oh, can you set a reminder on your phone? And Robin said to me, oh, if I do that, then I will just absentmindedly turn it off. And so what we had to do is I've had to set a reminder on my phone and then like message or call on Discord. It is literally a reminder system that goes from one side of the planet and back. It's ridiculous, all because some bloody staff cannot do their jobs. Kind of amazing, although it's really annoying trying to set up times when we are 12 hours apart, because like if it's
You've got to do the backwards math.
got to do the backwards math, and it's also like if it's too early in the morning, then I don't have time to wake up. But if it's too late in the if it's in the afternoon, then I have to like stay up past midnight. It's a mess.
Which afternoon works best for me just because of my horrendous sleep schedule, so it's kind of a lose-lose.
Yeah. It's bad.
Not that you don't usually stay up past midnight anyway.
I'm getting slightly better with that at the moment though. But yeah,
No.
it's just like there's a difference between having to stay up till 12:30 and having to stay up till 2:30. It's quite a big difference when it's the middle of the night. Yeah.
Oh, I've also had staff literally refuse to drive us places because they don't know or they don't care to learn how to A, drive our van, or B, learn how to put us in the restraints for our wheelchairs properly.
God.
Yeah. So I've literally had to schedule appointments around staff who refuse to drive.
See, that should be part of the job.
That should be.
Amazing. Just I hate these people so much.
Yeah. And don't even get me started on the higher ups who you literally report serious issues to, and they basically just brush you off when every other time they always preach self-advocacy, advocate for yourself, speak up if you need something, speak up if your needs aren't being met. But the minute you do, they start browbeating you into basically just accepting the situation as it is.
Yeah, it's just, they'll talk themselves up, but the truth is they just don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
horrible.
but moving on.
One thing I am wondering, of course, I haven't thought to ask you this because I'm not the sort of person who just asks you random questions, but we are about your disabilities, but we are here. Does the house you live in at least have like ramps between rooms and like outside and stuff, or do you need help with that?
Um, it's basically a ranch style, so all the rooms are on a single floor, and
Mm-hmm.
outside we have a ridiculously long ramp to the door of the covered front porch, which actually they removed the door, so it's just a gaping hole now.
Oh my goodness.
Um, and then we have our front doors, which are uh, keypad locked with a key to open the front door.
Mm-hmm.
We had this implemented because random people just had a habit of like walking up, not even knocking on the door, and just opening the door and coming in. And it's like,
That's a bit
hello?
scary. At least
Yeah,
they fixed that.
yeah. And then they actually had to change the code because apparently staff were stealing from a different location.
Oh my god. Uh,
Oh, a big problem with this company is that they will open locations without having the proper staff to even staff the locations they already have, because there's a
oh my goodness.
massive turnover of people in this company.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad the house at least sounds accessible, because I would not put it past these people to have like bumps at the doorway of every room for no reason or something.
The negligence on display here with like the privatized system is just absolutely. I understand like it's not just privatized like companies that have this issue. Like in the UK, the systems over there are pretty abhorrent. But I've seen like how systems can work with my grandmother in the Netherlands. Um, you know, like over there, she's treated with so much respect, and like the meals, the nurses always come around to help her, etc. That she has a really good quality of life. They're taken to like a community center to engage in activities like a couple of times a week, sort of thing. And it's just hearing the contrast between like what I've seen in the Netherlands with her and then what like the situation in the US. It really is.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention this isn't private care. This is all run through the state.
Well, that's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually reminds me. Should I tell them about the sting operation? Because it's not like we need to keep that a secret anymore because it didn't work.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to. I don't know if we should back up and tell. I won't tell the whole story unless you really want to, because of course what happened to you was really horrific. But basically,
basic detail is that I was assaulted by a staff in my sleep, and the company did not want to do anything.
I actually.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because
I shouldn't have. Yeah.
there was no naked touching, basically.
I actually compiled a whole research document of any relevant law I could find in Ohio law. What is it called? It has a special name, Ohio law, like the something standard code or whatever. I looked through that and compiled all of the relevant legislation and tried to figure out what are our options here. And basically, it's like there are none. They don't care. There's just the standard of evidence is ridiculously high, because of course it is. And so that kind of raised this question of what are Robin's rights? And I tried to find any kind of organization that could, provide counsel or, help Robin to get into a different place, or, any kind of advocacy, or just like a better idea of if there are any rights that Robin had, especially in terms of the right to like speak up about this sort of thing and to receive some kind of help, any kind of help. And
this had triggered my PTSD so bad that I was basically not sleeping, not eating, being just pretty much lifeless in my bed, and it got to the point where staff were calling on my behalf because they were so worried about me.
And I was just like thinking, like, what can I do from the other side of the world? Just desperately trying to find any kind of resources. And I'm like, okay, the legal pathway has nothing. Maybe I can try and find something within the company itself. I need to try and find out what Robin's rights are in the company itself. And so I tried emailing them to say, can you send me like a document of the rights that the various rights that people who are receiving help in your company have, because I'm looking into help for my cousin that I totally have. Please don't look into it. And they're like, oh great. And I specifically went through the email to make sure the spelling was American and not Australian.
Yeah, you do have it.
I nearly forgot to do it. I'm like, I have to remember to delete all the extra U's. And I emailed them and they're like, oh, can you call? And I was thinking, I can't call. I can't give them my Australian phone number and speak to them with my Australian accent. That's not going to work at all.
And also, there was another worry because I have mentioned Levi to several people because he's one of my main support people, and he honestly is a great friend, and so I like to make them aware of great friends. So, oops.
And so I tried to send all of these. I'm like, oh, with my disability, like I don't remember stuff well, and I have problems with selective mutism. It was like not entirely a lie there, and anxiety, and I have a hard time speaking on the phone, and so it would really help if you could send me something written down, please. And they just never got back to me. It's like, okay, yeah, they don't want to be held accountable.
Yeah, I don't. Their solution in the end was basically they separated, because I technically live in a duplex, which is 2 apartments put together. It looks like a house.
That's what you mean by the other side. Oh, that makes more sense.
I've told you that before.
I can't remember everything. My brain is melting all the time. Sorry. I'm a terrible friend.
Oh, you're Levi. I will derail this interview.
A terrible person.
But their solution was to separate our duplexes into 2 separate staff locations, and which, by the way, you can just walk through a door that connects our kitchens, and like in between the doors is the stairs to our basement. Mm-hmm. So you can just walk through that, no problem. There's no codes, no anything. Their solution was to have the staff work on that side instead of working on this side, which
is not a solution. It's not a solution at all. That's not a solution.
And for a while, they were having her work with my roommate instead of me, which hearing her voice was triggering.
Yeah, they're just terrible.
Yeah, just a mess. And I kept saying, I'll agree to these as temporary solutions, but ultimately, I want her out. And they basically were like, we can't do anything because the staff are unionized and our hands are tied. I'm like, mm, it was just frustrating because we kept going around in circles. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I don't think the issue is still resolved. But I'm better now. I have tamped down the PTSD to a manageable level. Sometimes I still have nightmares, but
It's just horrible because you shouldn't have to do that. Like the second you reported something, she should have been gone the next day.
because it didn't fit into their definition of assault, they were like, nah, we can't do anything.
Yeah. A higher revised code, that was what I was looking at. And like it's this, there's like assault, which is this really specific, serious stuff. And then there's kind of like, there's this other one where they don't even class it as assault, even if it's physical touch. I don't know. It's bad. If I was smart, I would have looked it up to refresh my memory, but I didn't expect to be talking about this. But like the Ohio Revised Code's legislation around sexual assault is just so terrible. Yes, unless there's anything else you want to talk about in regard to like just your disability. I mean, you can always talk about that later if you want to, but if you're ready, we can move on to how the transphobia and the ableism intersect for you. Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Right, so yeah, the first thing I wanted to talk about was something that kind of gave me pause is you mentioned that your caseworker wasn't getting in touch with you about changing your name. Because when I changed my name, it was a simple thing of I look up the document, I fill it out, I go to the place, and I submit it. Then I realized for you, hang on, you actually have to rely on someone to help you to change your name to reflect who you are. And it sounds a bit scary to me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what happened is that she said she got the forms, she filled out my desired name, and she said we basically have to submit them to a court and go to like a hearing and like have my name changed like legally approved, and it's this big process. Not to mention, I also, for some reason, Ohio law stipulates that I have to pay to have my name change advertised in a newspaper.
Yeah, they're very strict over there compared to here, unfortunately.
It's like, why? What if I have people who I don't want to know I changed my name?
Yeah, it's a total violation of privacy.
Name. You know, so that's one form of transphobia, I think, because I mean, having it advertised as a legal requirement, I think is.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely very transphobic that they do that. Especially because, of course, trans people are disproportionately the targets of violence. You know, it's effectively outing someone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is outing someone. That's really dangerous. That should not be a thing. Yeah.
And I guess I'll take this minute to. Robin, I kind of chose from both The Bird and Robin Hood. You know, it's gender neutral. It means bright fame. I like it. My middle name is going to be Bellamy, which is French for beautiful friend, because I would not be where I am today without many of my friends. And it's also, the French is kind of a callback to my original name because my family on my dad's side is French.
Shame.
Oh my god.
I'm British, it could not go without saying. Sorry, continue. Is this one of those? It's one of those innate reactions. It's just.
To be fair, I'm kind of a mutt because on my on my grandmother's side, my grandmother is from England.
It's nothing serious. Like I'm actually half
Yeah.
Dutch or part German as well. It's just, I'm from all over as well. But
Yeah.
it's just growing up in the UK. We just it's part of our culture. I remember all the jokes. That's right. I didn't mean to derail your conversation.
All right.
Yes, you did.
And then my last name is going to be King, which is the name of a very dear chosen family member. That I asked permission, like, hey, can I take your last name as mine? And he burst into tears.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
You put way more thought into your name than I put into mine.
But it's also funny because I didn't initially think about being Burb or Borb. But then because Levi and I are really close, it became this whole thing of we're basically we're the two Burbs, and we Borb and Burb is basically what we came up with. And he made actually art for me to use as a profile picture of the American Robin with my favorite color blue for the background thingy. I love it. I love it so much. He did such a good job.
I got the wagtail.
Yeah. There's a huge disparity in the amount of time those took. The Robin took me like a day. The wagtail took me 6 months.
I'm sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry for. I put that much work into it on purpose. I just find it funny because in terms of quality, I think they're roughly the same. Quite the improvement in my efficiency there. But then the Robin's only like 100 by 100 pixels. Wagtail is significantly more than that. So yeah. I also kept messing up the Wagtail having to start. I need to draw more pixel art birds. I really do. But yeah, like having to go through a caseworker to access your like transition related services, for people that's unavoidable. And I think in a better society that wouldn't be such an issue. But with how unreliable they are, I don't envy you, especially because of course you've had a problem with a number of your health aides and a number of people in the company being transphobic, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had a very real issue with people respecting my name and my chosen pronouns. It was to the point where I actually legitimately heard a staff rant to another staff for 30 minutes about having to use my name and pronouns in the notes staff write each other at the end of every shift, so like as a summary of what happened. And they're basically they were, what the angle they went with was, is it legal to use a non-legal name and pronouns?
Pronouns are not legal. I don't know if that person knows that pronouns are not legally mandated.
But the answer, I got it approved by my caseworker, and they still refuse to do it. And thankfully, it is improving. Most staff are using my name and the pronouns. Well, pronouns are still a bit of a battle, but they know my name now. And honestly, you wanna know the saddest thing? My roommate, who a lot of them consider below themselves because she has mental disabilities. My roommate gets my pronouns and my name perfect, and she's always correcting them, and yet they themselves cannot often be bothered. The irony drives me insane.
And it's just really horrible because of course you're just stuck with what you're given. And given that you couldn't get recourse for being assaulted, you're certainly not going to have any recourse against transphobia.
Oh, and speaking of the assault, I forgot to mention, my caseworker, right, was the one I was reporting this most to. She was the one I was going back and forth between with the higher ups. She actually legitimately came to me one day and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how badly this was affecting you. I didn't connect it to your past trauma."
Just they're meant to be taking care of you, and they don't pay the slightest bit of attention.
They don't, and the worst part is I'm my own guardian, so I technically have all legal say over my rights and what I want and my care. But the second I speak up, I'm ignored just as another client. But the second my roommate's guardian gets involved, they listen, they snap to attention.
They just very clearly do not have any respect for the people they're caring for. It's kind of this thing of, oh, we need someone from the outside to validate what we're doing.
Pretty much. Oh, and I've been trying to move, by the way, for 5 years. Gotten pretty much nowhere.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like the staff at the place you're at ever like hold the fact that you're like trans above you in like a fretful manner? Like if you make a big issue out of something, like do you get the sense have there been instances where they've like set out to misgender you more frequently, or other similar instances?
There was one big instance of that. Basically what happened is that we got a staff that even the higher ups were like wary of hiring because she has a track record of starting things between staff and a lot of violence and stuff. Basically she decided to have it out with one of my favorite people, Tiffany, because for literally no reason at all. And her favorite things to do were like be like, I'm too old for all this drama, I got kids, I'm 34, blah 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 blah, and like treating other staff like they were stupid and below her. And at one point I got sick of it because I am often treated like I am of lower intelligence just because I'm in a wheelchair. Yeah, that's another thing is people will automatically conflate like physical disabilities with mental. That is not how that works. It's not how any of this works. But so I decided to get involved and defend Tiffany. I'm like, you don't have to talk to her like she's a child. And this staff made a big issue of, are you talking to me? Please address me by my name so I know you're talking to me. And it all came, yeah.
This is weird.
It all came to a head one night when Tiffany basically stood up for herself, and this staff got into her face and was like, you want to take this outside? We can take this outside, let's go. And at that point, I snapped and started screaming at this woman, get the fuck out of my house, over and over and over. And then she tried to get into my face. And then Tiffany and the staff that worked on our, I guess, neighbor's side, I always call her our other roommate, came over and like, she and Tiffany formed like a barricade between this crazy lady and like us. And the crazy lady was screaming at Tiffany like, you need to get her under control and blah blah blah, and she needs to calm down and blah 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 blah. And it escalated into one staff basically having to barricade her on the other side, because every time she would come over, she came over like 2 or 3 times, apparently to get her stuff, I would just start screaming again. I'd just be like, get out of my house. Get out of my house, And Ultimately, she was, I believe, moved to another location because they can't just fire staff, apparently. And it got out that even upper management had been like, "Do we hire this woman?" It was a mess. But basically, after I first got involved, she went out of her way to dead name and misgender me. After she had been perfectly using my name and pronouns every time she addressed me, and it's like, yeah, so this is obviously deliberate.
And that's kind of like the way one sort of violence can feed into another. You know, oh, if you take issue with the way I treat you as a disabled person, then I'm going to start punishing you as a trans person as well. Yeah.
She clearly is someone who likes to be violent. She's not going to hold back on one kind of violence because it's going too far or anything. She's clearly going to use everything at her disposal.
But like,
It's just,
it's like seeing the system and seeing how corrupt it is. Like Umbral Reaver mentioned that someone demanded they stop HRT before he would treat their mental health issues. You could picture a place like this, the higher ups, if they took issue with what was going on, if they felt that a trans person on their service was getting too big for their shoes, they might try limiting medical access to things like HRT, or going out of the way to misgender documentation. And as we've seen from the way that this shit was handled, this instance happened, but in all the other instances nothing else happens. There's no real way to force a hand on this. They practically have complete control of the environment.
Literally, the only thing that will make them act is if violence happens. Because I had a roommate before my current one who we believe was undiagnosed schizophrenic. And she, for some reason, decided to target me a lot of the time. She would threaten to throw boiling water in my face. She would go after staff with butter knives. So we had to move all our silverware, and everybody was complaining about this girl. And ultimately, what got her evicted was that she threatened to have a third party come to the house and shoot me.
Even that, because nothing was done about the violence of your assault, etc. So it has to be what is typically classed as physical violence, not non-sexual physical violence. And it has to be that sort of. The word I'm kind of drawn to here is flashy, what everyone thinks of when it comes to violence. If it doesn't meet that criteria, then it's just nothing. Complete hands off.
Yeah, pretty much.
And speaking of limiting access to things like HRT and stuff, well, you've talked a lot already about attacks on your autonomy being ignored and talked down to. I understand that there have also been doubts about your ability to consent to various things as well, including things related to your transition. You've definitely talked to me about having a lot of trouble with getting top surgery.
Yeah. Okay, so where we are with top surgery is because my insurance is very, very picky about what they will and will not pay for. And I'm on Medicaid, which is basically supposed to cover everything. But for instance, getting my chair, my most recent chair, not only did it take me 2.5 years start to finish to get it, but the company ultimately wanted me to pay, I believe it was 10,000 of the $17,000 cost, and I had to actually get that covered through a waiver that the state provides for payment. So with top surgery, it's even more difficult. Basically, the requirements for getting top surgery on my insurance are have a family history of cancer, have the gene for getting cancer, or have breast cancer. Or, as I was told by, well, the funny thing about the cancer is we actually recently had a scare with potentially having it. I don't, thankfully. So what the doctor told me instead was, he felt, benign cysts, and so he told me if there was enough of an abundance on both sides, then we could go through with top surgery, like get it funded. And I didn't have enough. Turns out I only have one and just some very dense tissue. So what's going to happen now is I'm going back in 6 months to see if anything's grown bigger or if more have appeared, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
And I've had other doctors straight up say when I mention, I want to get top surgery, they're like, well, let's not get too excited.
Which is it's very interesting. They are very aggressive about how you're not having top surgery unless like you absolutely need it for some non-trans related thing, which any of us who have had breasts that we don't want can, or any of us who are perceived as women especially, can really, I think, identify with that, and especially the misogyny in that, the idea of trying to force someone to be a woman by denying that autonomy. But what's very interesting is in your case, I believe you told me that they just offered for you to have a voluntary hysterectomy.
Yeah, I've been told that if I want to get a hysterectomy, I can, no problem. It goes back to ableism and sterilizing the disabled. Yay, eugenics. But getting the boobs cut off is a problem.
Yeah, they're saying, we want to control women so that and people we perceive as women so that they can, have kids. Except for you, we don't want you having kids because we don't think you have value. But we're still going to force you to be a woman, and it's just that triple-pronged attack of transphobia and misogyny and ableism is just disgusting. If I was smart, I would make some sort of Trident joke. Like...
or the Triforce.
Oh god, the Trident. the saddest Zelda game ever.
Oh. But I mean, well, the good thing is I'm honestly mostly leaning towards no kids, but like the thing is I would need a lot of support if I were to have children, because I'm not very strong. Like I can't even open a window if there was a fire to get out of my house. And just, I have trouble meeting my own needs. How would I meet the needs of an infant and beyond? There have been a lot of questions regarding that, because there have been times where I've considered it, but I don't know. Anyway.
Sorry, my brain's just kind of bored. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're asking about, or if there's anything else you wanted to talk about, whether that's transphobia or ableism or misogyny, really anything. Or we could move on to maybe talking about some disability positivity.
Disability positivity sounds like a good note to end on.
Yeah. So, like, what are some of the ways that you think about your disability in a positive way and empower yourself?
Well, thinking. I do think that I have a lot of advantages with the system. Like, I technically have a transport system that, in theory, is supposed to be at my disposal basically 24/7. My and my roommates. Like, so if we want to go anywhere, we, in theory, can. And, we have basically a rotating staff of chauffeurs. Um, and we have our banks are set up so that we have other people managing our bills and monthly expenses for us, but we still get like a weekly allowance basically of uh, money on our debit cards so that we can spend it on whatever we really need or want. We also have food stamps, so we don't have to worry about groceries. And basically, in theory, like all my needs are technically met, and I don't have a lot to worry about that a non-disabled person, tends to stress over, like bills and work and basically providing for oneself.
Oh, sorry. There's one thing I wanted to ask about. I actually forgot. Was if you wanted to talk about wheelchair accessibility, and if there was anywhere in particular where that was lacking, and how that impacts how you access whether that services or just places you want to go. Like in my head, for example, I was thinking if you did get top surgery, do you imagine there would be a lot of difficulty around the wheelchair accessibility side of that? And would you have to fight with surgeons to do what they need to do or anything like that?
Well, generally in my experience in getting surgery, it's usually at a hospital, like with ORs and stuff. And what they do is they'll admit you into a room, put you in a hospital bed, wheel a hospital bed down to the OR, and then transfer you onto the operating table.
That's true.
But there usually is a lot of fuss around transferring me, because often it's either a two-person job or, people are worried about hurting themselves basically in transferring me, which is kind of, I don't want to say a ridiculous worry, but it's a little funny in hindsight because I weigh so little that so many people always comment like, "Oh my God, you're so light." Which and there is a lot of accessibility issues with doctors' offices in general, especially downtown. They're in like these narrow buildings. It's very hard to maneuver in, and the rooms are small. And the past couple of times, getting ultrasounds for the cancer scare, instead of getting transferred into the actual chair, I have had to tilt my chair back, and like adjust in my chair as necessary, so that the ultrasound tech can work.
Something else I was kind of thinking of is like if you wanted to go to, say, a support group for trans people, like what are the chances of that being wheelchair accessible, or providing other accommodations that you need?
Yeah, and like there's also the issue of like if I want to travel anywhere like out of state, out of country, basically what I've been told is that I would need to bring at least one staff with me, pay for them out of pocket myself in addition to paying for myself,
Oh my
and
goodness.
like it, yeah, a little ridiculous. Um, just so I could ensure that I have my needs met, because
Hmm.
I, it's it's ridiculous.
It sounds like one of these days I do want to show you Christmas in the summertime, and it sounds like it's going to take quite a bit of wrestling with the system.
Yeah. I will see Christmas in the summertime. I swear it.
Yeah.
Even if it kills me.
It's not going to kill you. Not going to let it kill you.
Well, I mean, I might die of old age by the time it happens because it's gonna take forever. Not on your part, just on the company's part.
Of course, if you want to come here specifically, which I imagine you would, we have to wait for the borders to open back up, which hopefully
Yeah.
next year, once some more vaccinations are done, hopefully we shall see.
Hang on. There's staff. Yes? Okay. Morning medication. Yay.
I guess this is a good time to remind people to drink water and take their medication today.
I'm not currently taking medication, but I will drink some water.
I am just
I
surviving
only
on...
drink cola, so.
I'm drinking cola at the moment as well. I shouldn't be, not how I've been recently, but it's keeping me going.
All of you are so unhealthy, and I'm disappointed in you.
But on that note, it is almost a quarter after 8 here for me. So do you guys, or do you want to move on to
We can move
the
on.
other?
Unless Levi's got any more
I
questions.
I just have one thing quickly in terms of disability positivity. I think you would hate me if I didn't give you a chance to talk about this, is the battle share.
Yeah, it's a running joke between Levi and myself that to battle transphobes and conservatives and
All the bad people.
all the bad people is I want a battle chair that is also a TARDIS. With like machine guns, flamethrowers, and nitro boosts, and I need to commission an artist to draw it for me.
That reminds me, I wanted to build a fully wheelchair accessible fortress in Minecraft because I saw this little meme about oh, you know, gatekeepers aren't all bad, and then there was a literal keeper of a literal gate, and I thought that would be really cool to have a gate to keep all of the really annoying people out, and build like a massive fortress that was like safe for queer people and you know, other marginalized groups, BIPOC, disabled people, etc. And I was thinking, oh, it would be really cool to have a tower with a big spiral staircase, and immediately remembered, wait, I can't do that. Robin can't do that. So I was thinking, okay, how are we going to make this fully wheelchair accessible? I got mods and everything for Minecraft. I got a vehicle mod, and the closest thing I could find to a wheelchair, unfortunately, was a shopping trolley. So that's what we're working with. I really need to find time.
I've ridden in shopping trolleys, so they're kind of fun.
Okay, then.
So have I.
It's technically accurate. I need to find time to learn the redstone. I need to figure out how to make 2 redstone contraptions, the gate itself and an elevator. And then the rest of it's just building the thing. I really need to try and work on that at some point and get that done.
I'm just thinking back to my youth, riding the shopping trolley down the train bridge.
Oh my god, what? Why were you doing that? That's not what shopping trolleys are for.
Because we found a shopping trolley in the Blackwater River, and there was a train bridge that goes across, and it's like, this is flat enough that we might be able to ride this down the stairs.
Oh my
it
God.
did not go well.
Oh my god. How old were you?
Probably 12, 13.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Robin, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
But and we were also we're gonna name the fort, the castle, after our streaming room that we use to watch Star Trek Voyager together.
Oh right, yeah. If I can remember what that's called, because the room doesn't exist
I
anymore.
already have the name somewhere. I just need to like search through it for our hit the search bar and just type it in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because they're auto-generated names and they're really weird. And I can vaguely remember what it's called, but I will probably get one of the letters wrong at least.
Mm.
It's a shame about that app not working anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it has to still work because it's still a thing, but it's
That's
it's
true.
just gonna take time to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Shall we...
Oh, that is one time you've steered me wrong. With Star Trek Voyager.
Oh yeah. My judgment on that wasn't the best.
Shall
Not that it's not a great show, but it's just
Some
got
of
a
the
lot of things
episodes are
that
just-
triggering.
Yeah. I was very careful about. I'm trying to remember the content warnings and stuff now, but yeah.